this selfie culture is deadly. It's literally killed 3-4 dolphins that we know of. It's looking bleak. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. People need to feel scared. People really need to feel scared. They want to take water from Satluj. I don't know if anyone has seen Satluj River, but it's bone dry, right? And I think a lot of Pakistanis do not understand how gravity works, how water works, how rivers work, because they think that Sindhis are just complaining, like it's your fault you don't have water. It's your bad management you don't have water. No, it's not actually. It's called gravity. There's a north, there's a south. You've hoarded water in the north. So there won't be any water in Sindh, and there also won't be any water in Punjab. And I say this as a scientific warning to the powers that be that are making these canals. I cannot stop anyone, but I can say that if you build these 6 canals, if you deprive us of water, your water will also diminish.
Hello and welcome again to this installment of Front Seat to Climate Change. And we continue our conversations under the Breathe Pakistan initiative. And today we have a very special guest. We have with us Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Jr., who is a Pakistan legend if it comes to conservation, and is also a fellow fitness enthusiast. So beyond the camera, that's also something we talk about. So welcome to the show, and pleasure having you. I think we've had an informal discussion before in Alhambra. We did over there. And I wanted to talk, touch base about the progress around Bulan Bachao and how are these, very focused conservation episodes. Because in my, I think, 30 years, I have not seen any one person speaking about the Indus dolphin with such passion. So I think it's a good example for everyone to be setting that if you care about something, you have to be very passionate about it.
For sure.
So again, where does Bulan Bachao really come from? And what has been your approach towards it and setting up an organization, setting up a vision, and where do you see it going in the coming 2-3 years?
Yeah, so I mean, Bulhan Bachao comes from, like you said very well, my obsession. You said the word passionate, but I think it's also an obsession. I come from an arts background, and in the arts, you do have to be obsessed with your topic to be able to create. And I think I took that energy into my other love, which was wildlife and conservation. Bulhan Bachao starts from when I was very, very young. I had a love for the Indus dolphin as a child, and I went to see the Indus River dolphin with the former deputy head conservator of the Sindh Wildlife Department, the late Hussain Baksh Bhagat, and seeing one was like seeing a unicorn. Honestly, it was in the middle of the city of Sakhar in the river, and it was very magical. And Sakhar is a very underrated city. If people want to see a beautiful city in Sindh, Sakhar is definitely one of them. In regards to how did Bulhan Bachao itself come about, so the Indus River dolphins get trapped in canals every year. And I actually went on one of these rescue missions as a 16-year-old, and it was an incredibly impactful experience for me. And so we noticed that there was a bit of a gap in conservation with the Indus River dolphin. And that was, since they get stuck in these canals, the communities along the canals are the first responders, but they're not treated like the first responders. They're not approached in the same way. So what Bulhan Bachao does is we go into these communities, we go to canal communities. We've done Kirthar Canal already, we've done Dadu Canal as well. And we basically set up camp for a good 5 days, 6 days. And we go from one village to the next. And we teach people about the dolphin. We show a Sindhi language film. We do an interactive session with the kids. We distribute toys. We distribute food. And we try and have, let's say we have 6 camps where we distribute food, toys, and talk about the dolphins. We try and do at least 1 medical camp. This time in Dadu, we did 3 medical camps, actually, because there was also a very heavy rain this year. So we felt that we had an obligation. We also did it in the heat, which was not the best idea. But yeah, that's our work.
So one thing I really want to know is that these organizations, when you set it up, you have your own vision. How do you see that? Is it flowing through your rest of the team? Do you think that the community is responding positively to it? What would be the sort of future goal that you've set for yourself, that this is something that I want to achieve in the coming 4 years?
Our team is very small. Bulan Bachao's team is very small, just 2 paid employees. We don't really get on the funding wagon as much, and that is an intentional choice because the work that we do requires people, human capacity, not necessarily financial capacity. Yeah. And we also don't necessarily want to apply for a grant for something that we don't actually want to do. So our goal is to simply sensitize people to the fact that the dolphin may end up in their community, even though they don't live on the river. Yeah. But because of the canals, the dolphin will end up in their community, and it's not an animal to be feared. Unfortunately, just yesterday, a dolphin died in Dadu Canal. And there have been many instances. I can name 3 in the past 2 years of dolphins being killed because people have taken them out of the canals and held them and had photo opportunities with them. And this selfie culture is deadly. It's literally killed 3-4 dolphins that we know of. And so we try and tell people, don't touch it. Don't crowd around it. Don't try and rescue it either. But call the Sindh Wildlife Department and they will come to your service. And they do. They're actually very good. They do rescue the dolphins. And as in my experience, if I send a message, because people do send me messages about these dolphins, and I get this horrendous footage almost daily, especially in this season when the water level goes down, and I always forward it to the wildlife authorities, and they're usually very quick to respond. So in that sense, the team is all on board because the work is simple. The work is the work the what we have in place is simple. Our goal for the next 4 or 5 years is to be able to tackle all 7 of the canals that come out of Sakhar Barrage, and that includes, we've done Kirthar, we've done Dadu, but uske saath bhi Rice Canal hai, and then there's also the Khairpur Feeder Canal, Nara Canal, there's 2 others on the other side of Sakhar Barrage. So we intend on at least covering the majority of these systems. And we also want to set up a school program, but since our work has been mostly with rural communities in Sindh, in Sindhi language, we're not yet prepared for the very complex school systems where, in some schools, kids have been sensitized already to the dolphin. In other schools, there's absolutely no education about it. So we're trying to figure out how can we go to the younger generation now.
And so, no, you've mentioned Sakhar and Sakhar Barrage and all the canals coming out of it, and I think that really takes us to the point about Bulhan and the blue color here, because it's the Indus River, and that's really why we care about the Bulhan, and that's where it's basically before us. The dolphin has been here before us, right?
Yes.
So, and the Indus River itself.
Yes.
So, what do you think of in your work, the importance of river management and the idea that the water should flow, that essentially is not being something that gets followed in Pakistan. So what is the future of the Indus River in this regard?
Oh God. It's looking bleak. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. People need to feel scared. People really need to feel scared because I am terrified. I had a dream once. And I know this is going to sound very wishy-washy, but I had a dream once when I was young that I was standing at Sakhar Barrage and there was no water on either side and there was just a bunch of dead dolphin carcasses. That was a dream, but especially now with the government building these 6 canals which they've committed to irrigate 4 million acres of desert in Cholistan. They're pumping water via 3 of those canals from Tonsa upstream. They're going against the order of nature. If there was such a thing, this would be it. And the amount of water required, 1, to complete that journey to get to Cholistan, 2, to actually irrigate all of those fields. Plus, they want to take water from Sutlej. I don't know if anyone has seen Sutlej River, but it's bone dry. What water? What water? So the fact is that we don't have that much water in Sindh as much as they're trying to take, right? And I think a lot of Pakistanis do not understand how gravity works, how water works, how rivers work, because they think that Sindhis are just complaining, like it's your fault you don't have water. It's your bad management you don't have water. No, it's not actually. It's called gravity. There's a north, there's a south. You've hoarded water in the north. It's not about Punjab and Sindh. We don't even have to take those names. In the upstream, you've taken water out, so therefore in the downstream we have no water. The Indus runs bone dry for 300 kilometers till it reaches the sea. And when people say that, oh, water that reaches the sea is water wasted, this is anti-people, this statement. Because you're not saying water going to the sea is water wasted, you're saying water going to Sindh is water wasted. That there are classes of people in this country, some deserve better treatment and some deserve to be ignored, right? And this is just a fact, and we should fix this, because it's for the survival of Pakistan. We must fix this. And water going to the sea is not water wasted, because the hydrological cycle insists that water goes to the sea, so that water can evaporate, so it can rain in the mountains, so it can freeze into glaciers, so it can melt, become a river again. When you stop water going to the sea, you stop the whole cycle. So there won't be any water in Sindh, and there also won't be any water in Punjab. And I say this as a scientific warning to the powers that be that are making these canals. I cannot stop anyone, but I can say that if you build these 6 canals, if you deprive us of water, your water will also diminish.
So I think you've touched upon a very important topic, particularly the flow of water all the way down to the Arabian Sea. And we know for the past decade, even more than a decade now, because the water isn't there, the sea intrusion has destroyed thousands of lives. Families have been uprooted, we have migration, and no one has been, no one realized the gravity of what they were doing back then. One of the reasons is that no one actually listens to indigenous voices. And we really need to, especially when we go around saying that we are the most vulnerable, the vulnerable are the ones in this country who don't have a voice. So how do you get that out, not just in your work limiting to Bulan Bachao, but in general, water policy, air pollution, agriculture, fisheries, everything. The voices aren't reaching to the right circles. If they do, they are not taken seriously.
They're tokenized.
So what do we do in this regard? Then when we know that this has to be done and it hasn't been done till now, how do you really get those voices in the right places?
It requires a lot of investment. It's not just a matter, even I used to think like, oh, just take them with you, and yes, that is also a first step, but I think you need to invest in your people, right? So, for example, WWF field officers, they come from very, very humble backgrounds, from Mohana backgrounds, fisherfolk backgrounds, but they are taught through the years by WWF how to interact with different people, how to speak to different people, how to host different people, how to, and I think this is a type of education that is needed at a government sector too, right? Like Sindh Wildlife Department field officers, they are respected, but that depends on the person in charge at the time. Javed Meher Saab is very respectful towards his field officers. He's the current head of the Sindh Wildlife Department. But, and so is Hussain Bakhsh Bhagat, who I met when I first saw my first dolphin when I was 14 years old. But these are exceptional people, and they treat their field officers and their staff well, and they try and bring them up, and they put them in the limelight. They put them in the interview limelight, right? And then with that, people eventually can get to international platforms such as COP, such as, I went to this conference in Colombia, in Bogota, and they showed us, before it was released, a 7-minute clip from the Planet Earth documentary that had the dolphin, that featured the dolphin. And they showed a dolphin rescue. And, I got very emotional. I was moved to tears, not because it's such a beautiful thing to see people helping an innocent, obscure, blind creature, but also because I knew every single person in that video. And none of them were named, and none of them were present. And none of them even knew that they were in this documentary. I had to go and tell them. I said, did you know your face is all over the world now? That made me very, very sad. Because how can that be? You know, these people are the ones who are getting their hands dirty and they're not being platformed. So this is a matter of investment. This is a cultural revolution that we need to have in our country, a class revolution that we need to have in our country, a value-oriented revolution that we need to have in our country. So it's a very long conversation, but it starts with, I think it starts with platforming people, even if you have to hold their hand through the process.
That's a great thought. I think that this is something that does bother me as well, because whenever we work in these policy documents, we have that standard culture of holding a stakeholder consultation as part of the policy, but in those consultations are taking places in hotels or, you know, these fancy government buildings. Now, the person impacted in a rural area is not going to come and, you know, give you consultation over there. So how do you platform them? The approach is that you actually reach out to them.
Yes.
So this is, I think, a constant cycle on how you get the right voices. But, you know, very glad that you gave us that anecdote, because this is a great example of how the recognition works for a positive feedback loop as well.
Yes, definitely.
So I think here we conclude, and it was again great to hear your thoughts about the entire process of building an organization, a vision, and connecting it with the broader ecosystem as well. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we will have you over with us sometime again in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And with that, we conclude. Stay tuned for more.